Hello, good evening, and welcome to Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television. Iron Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goyle Company Limited, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, and indeed Meridian Port Services. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA. This evening we are streaming live on our social media pages. We are streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and still on Facebook we are streaming live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Iron Port Ghana. Iron Port Ghana. Our media partner on this journey of a lifetime is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. Now, if you want to have a grasp of all the transpired on the show tonight, make a date and grab the Thursday edition of the BNFT. And you'll be able to see all that happened here on the show tonight. Indeed, we shall be getting interactive with you. And as usual, all you have to do is to send us your comments and messages ahead via our dedicated WhatsApp line 0559 019 177. 0559 019 177. We'll be glad to share your messages and comments with the rest of the world. My name is Kennedy Mona. We are going for a very quick break. When we bounce back, we shall continue the show. Please do stay with us.
Goyle makes good things happen. This time, Goyle has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goyle Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goyle Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goyle Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goyle Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goyle has that sorted. Goyle, good energy.
Electricity, pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Child, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse, and my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor,
I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance
for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
All right, so you're welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And indeed, in the course of the week, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority had an industrial action occasioned by the local labor union of the authority following a 20% share of container traffic from Meridian Port Services. Indeed, vessel movement has resumed at the port of Tema, and so normalcy has indeed returned there. Plus the fact that the delegation from Burkina Faso also called on the authorities of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority in the course of the week. Let's take a look at these stories and more.
The management of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has assured the general public that calm has returned to the port of Tema and vessel activities have resumed.
I can confirm that normal activities, vessel handling, has started since the midnight of 13th of July, after the unfortunate incident of the industrial action by our unions.
In a press release dated July 14, 2022, the authority disclosed that it has between 12 a.m. to midday, Thursday, July 14, sailed and berthed 11 vessels. This follows a 2-day industrial action by the local labor unions of GPHA over the handling of 20% container traffic, which led to the hold-up of vessel operations in the port. However, according to GPHA, a resolution has been arrived with the Meridian Port Services ceding the handling of the 20% gateway container traffic to GPHA for 2 years effective August 1, 2022.
We are working out the final modalities with MPS so that indeed we can start actually the implementation of the 20% that has been agreed upon for 2 years by MPS.
The authority in the press release assured all staff of its commitment to ensure effective implementation. This declaration was also made by the Director General Michael Lugoje during his meeting with the staff during the industrial action at the port of Tema.
You are all port and maritime operators. Vessels are going to come with containers that are going to be apportioned along this 20% to 80%. There's a lot of work that has to be done as to how the distribution will be done. And that is why it cannot be immediate. But the most important thing is that we have this letter here granting the 20%.
The leadership of the local labor unions have since declared their acceptance of the agreement to have GPHA handle 20% of container traffic received at the port of Tema.
The issue was with 2 years implementation. We were demanding for 10 years. But half a bread is better than none. No bread at all. We want to, because the struggle was over 4 years now. Therefore, accept this position for the 2 years. Let's start the implementation. We will monitor. For now, we want you to go back to your various place and work as the red continue to fly.
This is our life. Yes. This is not taking any. Among my 2 years. It's true. Let her know. It's authentic. They are now working on it. It is a junior force, not 20%, you know. Mama, 2 years, huh? So what committee yes. 10 years, and one 2 years. It means you have committed yourself.
The authority also clarified that when the original concession agreement between MPS and GPHA was signed in 2015, it did not include the 20% container traffic share for GPHA. The 2015 contract allowed MPS to exclusively handle all container traffic. However, an appeal was made to the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to intervene, culminating in a cabinet decision in 2019 for MPS to cede 20% share of container traffic to GPHA. The Burkina Faso Economic and Trade Promotions Days, also known as JPEG, a Burkina Faso government initiative to promote Burkina Faso's economic, commercial, and cultural activities, will be held in Ghana from September 27 to October 2, 2022. Ahead of this trade fair, a Burkina Faso delegation has paid preparation visits to key stakeholders in Ghana's trade sector, including the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. The Burkina Faso delegation, comprising representatives from the Ministries of Trade and Foreign Affairs, as well as other key trading institutions, visited GPHA to seek the authority's support towards a successful trade fair. It was also indicated that soon before the main event, another delegation comprising economic operators who use Ghana's ports will meet the authority to foster stronger relations pertaining to the import and export of goods. The two parties acknowledged the historically successful business relationship they have enjoyed in international trade. The general manager in charge of marketing and corporate affairs at GPHA, Esther JB Donko, took the opportunity to woo the delegation to channel more transit business through the ports of Ghana.
Burkina Faso exports through our ports had really gone down. So my sister, bring the exporters as well, so that we can have opportunity to have some discussion. So on that note, when you are preparing your program, please remember to fit us in your program. Probably we can have the opportunity during the main program to just talk to them about our ports.
Stakeholders in Ghana's maritime industry have received 2 weeks training on the utilization of the Yuandi Architecture Regional Information System, YARIS. The YARIS platform, which is an information sharing tool for maritime law enforcement agencies in the Gulf of Guinea region, was developed in partnership with the Gulf of Guinea Interregional Network Project to aid the implementation of the Yuandi architecture with support of the European Union. In all, 28 participants were trained in various scenarios, including coordination and operations for combating illegal fishing, vessels in difficulty, and miscellaneous trafficking. The training also enabled participants from Ghana's maritime law enforcement agencies utilize the YARIS platform to enhance surveillance and information sharing capabilities, thereby improving maritime safety and security operations. Speaking at the closing ceremony of the National Training Development and Implementation of the National YARIS in Accra, a Deputy Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Daniel Apini, said the YARIS will improve collaboration between coastal states to combat piracy and respond to the current maritime security challenges.
The system further provides and facilitates real-time coordination of maritime operations at various levels. It also offers a wide range of complementary tools such as the creation of dedicated situations, opening logs, charts, building view layers, and use of smart layers. These tools will help maritime law enforcement agencies to facilitate effective, precise monitoring and coordination of maritime crisis situations.
He said, as part of efforts to sustain improved maritime security situation in Ghanaian waters, the GMA has procured Mercy-class patrol ships to improve surveillance and patrol activities within Ghana's maritime jurisdiction.
The authority will continue to collaborate with the Ghana Navy, the Marine Police, the National Security and all agencies represented on Ghana's National Maritime Security Committee to ensure our waters are secured for legitimate uses of the sea.
The deputy head of delegation of the European Union to Ghana, Pieter van Gelder, affirmed the EU's continuous support to a peaceful and safe maritime domain.
In close cooperation with ECOWAS and ECA states, the EU has funded multiple actions and projects in the field of maritime security, and many of them have included capacity building, training modules, such as the one successfully carried out in Accra in the past 2 weeks in the framework of the Gauguin Plus project.
So those were happenings in the port and shipping industry locally. We're not going international to see what's happening on the global stage.
The IMO Norway Green Voyage 2050 project has launched a series of roundtables on the creation of national action plans to address greenhouse gas emissions from shipping, with the first event held in collaboration with the government of Kenya on July 12. National action plans are an important part of efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the maritime sector. IMO has encouraged countries to develop and submit their plans. This will help countries to achieve the emission reduction goals set out in IMO's initial GHG strategy. The roundtables, which are available to all Green Voyage 2050 partnering countries, offer an interactive platform for national authorities and relevant stakeholders to explore the motivating factors and benefits for creating an NAP and to connect the dots to existing emission reduction efforts by the country. MS Maelstrom, the world's first fully electric and zero-emission fast ferry, classed as a high-speed craft, has embarked on the journey from the Norwegian Jelstrand shipyard to its new home port, Stavanger. According to Maritime Cleantech, the cluster organization that initiated and established the EU-funded TRAM project, which resulted in Maelstrom, the ferry has been built using modular manufacturing methods at the shipyard. Modularization helps cut both production costs and engineering costs and will contribute to making electric-powered high-speed vessels competitive in terms of both cost and the environment. The 30-meter-long Maelstrom is expected to vastly improve the carbon footprint of its owners, Columbus, a public transport company. According to UNTAG's Global Trade Update published on July 7, the value of global trade rose to a record $7.7 trillion in the first quarter of 2022, an increase of about $1 trillion relative to the first quarter of 2021. The growth, which represents a rise of about $250 million relative to the fourth quarter of 2021, is fueled by rising commodity prices as trade volumes have increased to a much lower extent. However, the positive trend for international trade may soon come to an end amid tightening policies and geopolitical frictions. The report says the war in Ukraine is starting to influence international trade, largely through increases in prices. It adds that rising interest rates and the winding down of economic stimulus packages will likely have a negative impact on trade volumes for the rest of 2022. Volatility in commodity prices and geopolitical factors will also continue to make trade developments uncertain.
All right, so those were happenings in the port and shipping industry on the international stage. Now, this time we are beginning a new segment on Iron Port, and this segment is called The Word of the Day. The Word of the Day. Now, the Word of the Day will bring you a word related to the maritime and shipping industry. That's our jargons and terminologies. Every week, we'll bring you one word and tell you what it means. It's just a matter of getting you to appreciate some of our terminologies and jargons that we use in the maritime industry. And today's word, the first, will be anchorage. 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 So let's take a look at today's word.
Your word of the day is anchorage. Anchorage. It is a place with sufficient depth of water where vessels anchor within the harbor. Also, an anchorage could be a place within a port's jurisdiction where ships wait outside the harbor to unload or pick up their cargoes.
All right, so that was today's word, the word of the day, a new segment introduced on Iron Port. It's now time for us to zoom into our discussion proper tonight. Tonight we're talking about the closed season, and the future of Ghana's fisheries industry or Ghana's fisheries sector. Now, we've all heard that government has introduced a policy, and that's a closed season policy. It's been running for some time now. There are mixed reactions and mixed feelings about it. Some people think that it's a good thing because it allows the fishes in the sea, the fingerlings, to grow or to replenish so that the fisher folk can have good catches. Now, it also allows the fishermen or fisher folk to also rest a bit before they get back to sea. But what is really happening with as far as this closed season thing is concerned? So tonight we're taking a look at what it is, how it is impacting the livelihood of fisher folk, whether indeed we are realizing the results or benefits for which this particular policy was introduced by government, and what the future of Ghana's fisheries sector holds for us as a country. Tonight I'm proud to introduce to us a fisherman who also happens to be the secretary of the Ghana Tuna Association, Mr. Rickster Ni Ama Amafio. Rickster Ni Ama Amafio. He's not a stranger on this program. Let's say good evening to you, Rickster, and welcome.
Good evening, Bernard.
Bernard is a politician.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, Kennedy. See,
yes.
The two of you have been confused.
Absolutely, yes.
Because I have two brothers who are my friends.
You know that
very
one.
Good friends,
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much indeed for obliging us this evening. We're taking a look at the close season and what the future of Ghana's fishery sector holds for us. And I know you know the nitty-gritties, the intricacies, and the nuances involved as far as this particular issue is concerned. I recall you raised some concern some time ago about it, and but our understanding as lay people who are not hardcore fisher folk or who are not fisher folk is that it allows for the fishes to replenish, the sea to replenish, so that we can have the fingerlings and the small fishes grow, so that we can have our fisher folk have good catches when the season is opened. Now it also allows the fisher folk to take some rest, so that they can also rejuvenate, kind of like refresh before they get back to work. Tell us what it has been like for you in terms of the introduction of the close season. I know this particular year's own is currently in place. Yes, so tell us about it.
Well, thanks, Kennedy. Fishing closure or moratorium is basically one of the many measures, what we say conservation measures, prescribed by law that the minister may impose as part of measures to ensure that the fisheries stocks are maintained. Yeah. Because I'm not a fisheries scientist, I'll try to speak more like a fisherman. Because when we talk about fish stocks, we are basically talking about particular species within a community or a population of fisheries. And so for these particular closed seasons, the focus has generally been on what we call the small pelagic. And the small pelagic are we have the demersals, which are bottom fish like the red snappers, what the Ghanaians call chile, the groupers and the likes. And then we have big pelagics like tuna. And then we have small pelagic like the sardinella and then the mackerel. And we have some of them call them semi-pelagic like the carangis, the horse mackerel, and those types. So the close season is focused on the small pelagic, particularly the sardinella stocks that are believed to be declining in terms of stocks. Yeah. The assumption is that we've gotten to a point where the stocks are virtually breaking. And so it's one of the conservation measures that generally happens. Yeah. This measure generally is focused on doing two things. We have what we call growth overfishing and recruitment overfishing. Okay, growth overfishing. And recruitment overfishing. Okay. When we say growth overfishing, what we are basically saying is that, you see, the fish need to grow to a point and before you could harvest them. Particularly for the pelagic, the sardinella, they need to spawn. When we say they need to spawn, they need to lay eggs and have sperm shed on them so that they can have babies. Yes. Now, when they do that, then you have recruitment into the fishery. Right. Because once they spawn, then there's recruitment into the fishery. Right. So when you have a closure, what you are basically trying to prevent people from fishing the young ones that have been recruited into the system, and also to prevent you from fishing fish that are supposed to grow. Right. So basically, that is what it does. It doesn't resolve all the challenges that comes with the fish decline, because you see, you have issues with environmental factors, which will not be dealt with by closed season, and you also have issues to do with the climate change that we are experiencing now. And then there's a third one, which is capacity. Because when you have excess capacity, and when we say you have excess capacity, the excess capacity results in excess effort. Now, for instance, Ghana has close to 15,000 canoes, and we are supposed to have about 9,000. It means you have excess capacity in there. You are supposed to have up to about 60 or 70 trawlers.
Right.
If you have about 75, 100 trawlers, you have excess capacity.
Yeah.
Now, so there are capacity challenges. And one way of resolving the capacity challenge is to have periodic closure. So you allow the fish to have some freedom.
Right.
Or you probably may have to have a quota system. But a closed season doesn't resolve the quota issue. And because there are a number of factors, the closed season in itself is not a panacea to resolving the myriad of challenges that is bedeviling our fishery sector currently.
Right.
It only tries to deal with one issue and to ameliorate that problem that comes with the issue of recruitment overfishing and growth overfishing. But where did the closed season issue come from? In 2015, I humbly led a team of trawl owners.
Right.
Then I was the executive secretary to Rhode Island for a study tour.
Right.
And we need to resolve to do a few things right, because at the time the trawlers were doing too many things wrong. And one of the things we decided to do was to institute the closed season.
Okay.
So in 2016 November, the trawl sector had the first closure. Then January, February, they had the second closure. But there was a challenge as to the timing. So the trawlers were having their closure even before the canoe people were introduced into the system. Now, from the scientific and technical working group, the report they had was that between July, August, September, the small pelagic, which was the target, were spawning. Now, if they were spawning...
That means they were recruiting.
They were recruiting.
Yes.
Then, you need to allow the mothers to lay their eggs. So you don't have to harvest them at the time that they were gravid, when they were pregnant. So you need to allow them to spawn. Then when they spawn, you need to allow the fingerlings, the juvenile, to now migrate into safer areas, so you can then focus on...
When you say spawn, it's S-P-A-W-N?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So you could allow the mothers to now move into wild, then they can be harvested, because they have spawned, at least a fish must spawn once.
Yeah.
And when the sardinella spawns, according to the scientists, you have about 50,000 to 60,000 fingerlings.
Just one?
Just one spawning.
Wow.
So it means that so you see, when you take the eggs in the fish...
And mostly, no, before you continue with the eggs and whatever, mostly, what's the survival rate of the 50,000 or 60,000 fingerlings that
well, I wouldn't be here to guess,
right.
But there are a number of factors.
Wow.
There are climatic factors. For instance, the tuna feeds on the small pelagic, so there are predators that predate on them.
Right.
And so you have fishermen who would fish. So they are exposed to a number of dangers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is nature.
Right.
So you don't expect that all of them will survive.
Yeah.
But definitely, so you allow as many as possible that can spawn to spawn, so that those that will survive in the system and then be recruited, and then they will go through the cycle, then they come back. Now, you have two major upwellings. And when, in the layman point of view, when we say upwelling, it means that the temperature of the water has variation.
Right.
Now, we are getting into August, and it's getting cold. What it means that the surface of the water becomes colder. And since cold water is heavier than warm water, when it is becoming colder, then the cold water will now move down, and then the warm water will come up. Now, when the warm water is coming up, because it's turning, it also comes out with what the scientists call the phytoplanktons and the food and everything.
Right.
And so the fish will then follow them, and then it will move by current. So as it moves by current, the fish will follow them from where they are. And so they'll be following the food, they'll be following the current, and then they may be getting closer to shore, and they'll be on the surface, so it becomes possible for the fishermen to sight them and now fish for them. So we have a major upwelling, which is between July, August, and September. And so that's where you normally would have the bumper harvest.
Right.
And then you have a minor upwelling around January, February, March, thereabout. So you have 2 upwellings. Now, the challenge is that it is around this major upwelling that the fish also spawns. And so you have a tussle now asking fishermen not to fish when it is a major upwelling, when they are supposed to make money. Because you also believe that that is the time to now protect the gravid and to protect the juvenile and to ensure that you don't engage in growth overfishing. So that is the major challenge we have now with the closure. Because now we say, okay, no canoe should fish around this time, but this is the time they also make money. The other challenge is that the trawlers are closing July, August. The canoe fishermen are closing in August. Now, if the fish are migrating and they close in July, but fish in August, when spawning is at its peak, you are likely not to have any benefit from the close season. Because it means that in August, when they have gone back, the fish, those that have spawned, will have their juvenile in the system. So you are likely to now harvest the juvenile in those that have not spawned at all. So you need to take measures that would ensure that if you do a closure, then you have some scientific appreciation of what is happening in the system. So you know that, well, when we did a closure, fish were migrating from the west to the east. They were spawning. We were monitoring the movement of the juvenile, and we knew that around this time they were here. Then you could institute what we call area closures. So if you have monitored well, and you know that probably the juvenile had moved into the IEZ, what we call the inshore exclusive zone, the 30-meter contour depth from the shoreline, or 6 nautical mile, whichever is further. Now, that is an exclusive zone for the artisanal activities. So if you have done proper monitoring and they are within the IEZ, within particular areas, then you could find ways and means of closing those areas to protect the juvenile. Or probably you have to now look at gear specification. That, okay, if the juvenile move into the IEZ, around this time, you are not allowed to use mesh size, that's the size, the opening of the net, of this size, because if you do, you are likely now to harvest the juvenile that has been recruited into the system. But if you allow it open, then they are likely to now harvest those juvenile. So there will be predation, there will be fishing, and then basically you have other environmental factors. So basically, closed season is a conservation tool that says that nobody should fish within a specific area or within the entire zone. And when that happens, it is meant to preserve the resources. Now, there are 2 types of closures in Ghana. We have a closure for the tuna sector. That is not a total closure. That happens between January, this year it was January, February, March until March 13th. We call that a moratorium on the use of fish aggregating device, FAD. The tuna...
What is that?
The tuna, we have something called bamboos that we lay on the surface of the water, and it attracts tuna. Tuna is regulated by the International Commission on the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas. Now, so it means in the entire Atlantic area, or what we call the conservation area, nobody is allowed to fish on FAD. You have to do what we call free school fishing. That is when the tuna is moving freely. That's when you have to do it. So it doesn't mean that the tuna industry will not fish at all, but they won't fish on FAD. Now, so if you have the ability to do free school fishing, which is very difficult, then you can fish at the time that there is moratorium on the use of fat.
Right.
Otherwise, you have almost all the tuna vessels generally very much not fishing at all.
Okay.
So when you have this moratorium, which is for the trawl sector, the semi-industrial and the artisanal sector, the tuna fish vessels are still at sea. So you find tuna vessels fishing now. It's not because they are, it's basically because they are not bound by this closure. The only challenge is that, you see, there are two types of tuna vessels. You have the pole and line vessel and then the personers. The pole and line use hook and line.
Right.
And so they require bait, or we call them bait boats.
Sure.
And the baits they use are anchovies.
Yeah.
So when there is a closure, and then they also have to go and harvest anchovies, which is their bait, which is also a small pelagic, then you have a challenge. We probably need to get to understand this.
What it means is that the tuna eats the bait that they use.
Yes, what happens is that the tuna vessel, which is a bait boat, it's a pole and line vessel, but it has a bait boat in the vessel.
Yeah.
Now, the bait boat has a net, so the bait boat is released into the water, then they harvest the anchovies,
right.
But they don't kill them. They scoop them live into a bait tank.
Oh.
And then when they see the tuna, they release them live. So while the tuna is eating
hunting, sure.
Then they will be harvesting the tuna. So they don't actually put bait on the hook.
Okay, yeah.
They harvest them whilst they eat. And so when the tuna stop eating, then they move to another area to try. So they will always need anchovies as bait, because without bait, they will not be able to harvest the tuna.
Yeah.
So basically, that is the issue about the closure.
Right.
And like I said, it is just one measure, and it deals with just a small aspect of the conservation. There are issues because the causes of the decline in our fish stocks is not just about fishing activity. It also has to. We have not addressed ourselves to, and then there's a climate change aspect that we've also not addressed ourselves to. There's the overcapacity of the fishery sector. Now, the fishery scientists will tell you when they do their bioeconomic model that you have your efforts and then you have your resources, and there is a point where they call the MSY, the maximum sustainable yield, on the curve when they do the bioeconomic curve. And when you get to the maximum sustainable yield, it means that if you put in more effort, you are basically now getting into danger zones. It means that from the maximum sustainable yield, any effort you put in to go any further, you are basically losing your resources. The most ideal point to be is maximum economic yield, where your effort and the resources you are getting would be economically sustainable. Now, for the small pelagic, my understanding is that we are way, way beyond the maximum sustainable yield. So it means that we are basically losing our resources. And so we have to find ways and means of reversing and coming back so that we are sustainable.
Right.
I think that's why we are instituting measures like closed season. But it's not enough. Because especially when you are overcapacitated, you probably need...
You've mentioned excess capacity. So this is about the third time you're mentioning it. And I just want to find out from you, what are the numbers like in terms of the trawlers that, ply our waters? And what should be the limit? What's the right limit or normal limit that we should have in our waters?
From the last fisheries management plan after the World Bank project, we are talking about 9,000 or so canoes. And we have close to 15,000. We're talking about, at the time we had about...
We have close to 15,000 instead of 9,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the time we had over 100 trawlers. The proposition was, I think, 45, but we agreed to some 70, 74. So we have about 74 trawlers. Interestingly, the trawlers are becoming stressed. So a number of them are not fishing. And so we have those numbers, but not all of them are fishing. But you have a large number of canoes that are currently fishing. Now, the challenge is, because we still run an open access, and people can walk into the canoe. Today, I can get up and go and buy wood, carve it, get my equipment, put it on there, and then start fishing.
Right.
Now, if you run a system like that, and you put in very little regulation, you continue to increase your capacity. And I have said it on a number of occasions that you need a proper government policy and government intervention to be able to deal with the excess capacity.
Who's supposed to be regulating this particular industry? Is it the Fisheries Commission?
It's the Fisheries Commission and the Ministry. But you need a clear policy on how to reduce the capacity. Because these are livelihood issues.
Right.
And so you can't just get up and say, okay, I'm taking 20 canoes out of the system.
Yeah.
Whose canoe are you taking? You need a gradual approach to deal with the issue. And one of it is to reduce capacity. And I think on your show the last time, I said it, that institute a policy on pension for old age people in the system, so they can rely on their pension. So why subsidize premiums so much when you could probably use part of the subsidy to institute a policy on pension to retire old age people? And then institute a specific educational policy that will take younger people out. And so you'll be left with some people in the middle. And whilst they move out, they retire onto the pension scheme. And so they don't get back into the industry. And when these younger ones get new vocation, they will also move out. So you begin to thin the industry. And when you thin the industry, it means that you will reduce capacity.
Right.
Because if I am alone, if I have 3 children, and I decide that we are all fishermen, and they go into the fish, and each of them have 5 children, and we have 1 canoe, it may be too small for us.
Right.
So we may need 2. Another family may need 2. Some other family may need 2. So you keep increasing the capacity. But if you provide the children with education and alternatives, you may not have to bring all of them back into the industry. And so you will not rapidly increase capacity. And you need a clear government policy that is able to say we are committing resources into reducing capacity. If that happens, it's not an immediate term, but going into the future, you begin to reduce capacity. Then you need to now research into mariculture. Because our fish consumption is high and our fish importation is very high.
I was about coming to that, whether we're able to even meet demand.
No, we are
as
not,
we talk about excess capacity.
No, we are not able to meet demand. But you see,
so we export. We import.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you see, every sea has a carrying capacity. So Ghana is high consuming fish nation. In fact, highest in Africa, one of the highest in the world. And the challenge is that, and I keep saying that, we have basically destroyed all our inland contribution to fisheries because we destroyed all our inland water bodies.
Right.
And fish can only survive in water. So when you continue losing your water bodies, you continue to lose your fish because you are losing their habitats. And so people who ordinarily would be fishing in probably inland areas are basically now dependent on marine fisheries.
Yeah.
But the sea is getting dried. So you probably will now need to institute new measures. And one measure probably is to research into mariculture and see how you would, because Norway has extensive mariculture activities. See how you would have mariculture activities. Remember, we don't have bays. We only have wide open sea. So you need to put in place a lot of systems and strategies to be able to have a proper functioning mariculture, to be able to meet demand. You need to institute closed areas or marine protected areas where you would know that these are sensitive areas. You do not have to destroy them because if you destroy them, you will destroy your fishery. And you completely protect those areas, especially when you have what we call resting stocks, where the fish may, you see, when the fish migrate, they spawn, the juvenile move, they get to a point where they may rest, and it's good condition for them to rest. Then before, when the upwelling come, they migrate and then the cycle continues.
Yes.
So you need to identify where those resting stocks are and protect them. In some jurisdictions, for instance, their fisheries observers are GIS, Geographic Information System. They know how to do. They know how to use a GPS system. That's the Geographic Positioning System. So you would find out that when they are on the vessel, and the vessel trawls and bring the fish onto the factory, and when we say the factory, the deck where they work on the fish, they do the sorting, and they see that you have too many juvenile or you have too many endangered species, they are able to communicate immediately to land. The area is mapped out and is closed for a period for observation. Now, so if you want to do proper fisheries management, you need to do a bit more of investment into science, into technology and everything. That is the only way you'll be able to preserve the fishery. You see, fish is so important globally. It's only in areas like Ghana that we don't place premium on fishing and fisheries activity, because it is key to our dietary requirements. You have fish oil for medical purposes and all that. So you need to give it the same weighting as you give to any other sector.
Right.
But we have just considered it as, one of it. We have a vast ocean, and there's always fishing.
That wouldn't have been the case if government... Why did government create the Ministry for Fisheries and Aquaculture?
Of course.
Perhaps it's because we place a lot of premium
on
the industry.
It's now even a cabinet ministry. But do we do the same investments in the sector as we are supposed to do if we place that much premium on the sector?
Right.
You see, it becomes a lip service if you create a cabinet position and do not provide the necessary resources to allow the ministry, the commission, and other institutions to function the way they are supposed to function. Because fishery is one of the major reasons we had Brexit. And if you attend international conferences like ICAT, you will see how countries are fighting over fish, because the people need fish to survive. Food is a basic essential. So basically, that is the understanding, and that is why close season is important. But we need to handle it better than we are doing.
What's your assessment of the 2021 close season? Did we realize the results, the objectives for which this particular policy was introduced?
Well, I was there when the deputy director responsible for research made his presentation. I personally had my issues, because you see, if you don't have research vessel and you don't rely on the available vessels, because that's a lot of resources. You have over 70 trawl vessels. You have canoes, 14 to 15,000 canoes. You have tuna vessels. You have inshore vessels. So if you pick your samples after they have been harvested, you are not able to tell exactly where, but there are a number of things you need to do to be able to do a proper stock assessment. Because when you are doing a stock assessment, you basically will be talking about the stocks as they are. Like I said, they are a population in a community.
Right.
So, for instance, if a canoe from Tema goes to fish in Adan and lands its fish in Tema, and you pick that as a sample from Tema, it is not representative enough of where the fish was harvested. So you would not be able to do a proper analysis as to the state of the stocks, because there are a number of things you'll be analyzing. One of it is a gonad, the sex organs that shows the maturity of the fish and all that. So you know that, well, around this area you have fish that are so matured and that they may be spawning or they may have spawned, and so they are okay for harvesting. So if you pick mortals at the beach and you do the analysis, you may know they are matured, but you will not be able to put some specific scientific things you need as a scientist.
Right.
But I don't blame the scientists, because they don't have a research vessel, and so sometimes it's difficult for them to do the things they need to do. So they need to rely on the available resources, most of which is sending people to the beaches to buy fish for them to analyze in the lab.
Right.
Which is not the way to go. Well, in Rhode Island, the university had a research vessel. So any university in Rhode Island that is doing fisheries has a research vessel. They have the state has its own research vessel.
Right.
And then the New England region, which includes Massachusetts and New Hampshire, Maine, they all have research vessels in their university. So you can, and they've been doing that over a long time. So you can imagine the quantum of research information they have.
Yeah.
And so when they are doing their prediction, they know what they are talking about. But if you don't have, none of the universities in Ghana have a research vessel.
So
the ministry itself doesn't have, the state doesn't have.
Perhaps it's because it's quite expensive. You know that.
No, you see, do you need
capital intensive?
No, the research vessel we use in Rhode Island to go fishing was quite small. Of course, we fish in the bay. You definitely, it's not more expensive to acquire a medium-sized vessel as a research vessel that can do once a month.
Right.
Or when the universities need them, they may fuel them, or when industry wants research on specific thing, they may fuel the vessel to do research for them, so we could get our own data that is reliable.
Right.
It's not too expensive to do that. It is not too expensive compared to the resources we are losing.
Right. Right. Okay, so let's take a look at the other issue of the invasion of our waters by foreign trawlers. How much of a challenge has this been to you guys?
Well, it's a major challenge that we live in a sovereign country where our own people are unable to acquire our own vessels to be able to fish. And so you need to rely on foreigners, and you don't only rely on foreigners for financial resource, you also rely on them for human capital.
Right.
You get it. It's worrying, and I've said it on a number of occasions, but the way it is, we may rely on foreigners for a very long time. It's not just the Chinese. We have relied on the Spaniards, we relied on the Greek, we relied on the Japanese, the Norwegians, to basically support our industry. I think that apart from Recruitment's time, when we had the State Fishing Corporation that was functioning, and a few indigenous Ghanaians like Mankwazi Fisheries, Ocean Fisheries, Obuawi Fisheries, that ventured into the industry. Capital is so expensive in Ghana. And you need a lot of capital to be able to go into the sector. Now, Regional Maritime University is no longer training skilled crew who are fishermen.
Right.
So you don't even have captains to run your vessel. You are basically reliant on foreigners who have a lot of fisheries colleges and fisheries schools to train their people, for them to come. And so they come with their money and they come with their crew. Now, all we have is the fish. And the fish is going. I have said it, that, look, we have too many foreign vessels. It's time that we start training our own people. If people,
do we have any reasons why the RMU stopped training these professionals?
We have had a number of meetings with them. We even asked them to open at least the tuna faculty, so we could train people for the tuna industry. Now, they need clientele. And when our industry basically collapsed, well, at some point our industry collapsed, they were not getting clients. The clients they were getting were for the commercial vessels and all that. They were not getting clients for them. Now, the last time we spoke with them, they said, look, all the fishermen we have in our faculty are gone. They are either retired or... So we are now going to rely on some Danish funds to go to Denmark and train some people so that they can now come back and train.
We'll take Ghanaians there and train them and bring them back.
So that they can train. Now, the other challenge is that you need to be a fisherman to be able to teach fishermen. So if you are not a fisherman, if you don't know how to mend nets, you may not be able to teach people how to mend nets. So if you have a lot of people with a lot of academic background, and you take them 1 year, 2 years to go and learn, they may not have the same level of expertise that you would have in somebody who has been a bridge boy and all that and learned. So you have Ghanaians who can do everything at sea. The only thing they don't have is a certificate of competence.
Right.
Now, the law also requires that to even be a captain, you need a certificate of competence.
Absolutely.
To be an engineer, you need a certificate of competence. So if you don't have the certificate of competence and you have all the skills, you are still not recognized.
Right.
And so to be an effective captain, you probably may have to be fishing, then you go back to school, you come fishing, you go back to school, so you can blend the two. So that is where the challenge is. How do we train competent people who would be able to be effective fishermen, who would then replace the Koreans and the Chinese, who are managing our vessels? And that will take a long time. Interestingly, we will need to collaborate with these same people we believe are evading our system to train our people, because we don't even have the trainers of trainers.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is worrying, it's a challenge, but we are going to live with it. What we need to do is to find ways and means of regulating the excesses in the system so that we can be involved in sustainable fishing. Because, you see, if you take out one trawler...
Hold there. Okay. When we come back, we'll continue. We just have to go for a break now.
Okay.
With me in the studios, Rickster Niyama Matthew. He's the secretary of the Ghana Tuna Association. And tonight we are discussing the closed season and the future of Ghana's fisheries sector. That's what we're discussing on Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television tonight. We're going for a very quick break. When we bounce back, we'll continue the discussion. Please do stay with us.
Every now and again, GOIL makes good things happen. This time, GOIL has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. GOIL Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with GOIL Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. GOIL has that sorted. GOIL, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance
for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy. creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
All right, so you're welcome back. Pretty shortly, we shall be going to the inbox to bring your messages and comments. And I've also been told by my producer that we can activate the phone lines for you to call in. The number to dial, you know, is 020-552-8353, 020-552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Remember, I'm in the studios with Mr. Ristani Amafio, who's the secretary of the Ghana Tuna Association. We're discussing the close season and the future of Ghana's fisheries sector or industry. And you've heard him. He's elaborated some of the challenges that we are grappling with as a country. And I mean, he's quite fluid in terms of his presentation this evening. Let me come back to you. You were talking about how we can efficiently regulate our sector, the fisheries sector, to ensure that we remove some of these challenges that you catalogued.
Yeah, you see, the sector is actually classified by gear. So when we see the tuna sector, and like we have two types of gear in the tuna sector. We have the pole and line, and then the person.
Right.
So the person uses net, the pole and line uses. And when you come to the trawl, there are different types of trawl. We have, but Ghana, what we do bottom trawl, and in some jurisdiction, we do bottom trawl with the trawlers dragging the net from the back. Yeah. Some people do side trawl and other. Some even use dredges. There are all types of trawl, but we do bottom trawl. That's what the law allows. And you have a mesh size that is allowed.
Right.
The mesh size should not be less than 60 millimeters in the cordent. And when we say the cordent is the more like where the fish finally ends up. So it's like the sack. Now, if we maintain the 60 millimeters cordent, and the last time I explained that we have square mesh and
is it round?
The square mesh and diagonal mesh.
Okay.
Now, if you keep using diagonal mesh, the mesh is likely to close. So if you want to maintain some specific sizes, you probably will need to look at the design of the mesh,
right,
of the size and the types of mesh you are using. Now, if you want to do, for instance, the cephalopods, the cuttlefish. In Ghana, what we have is cuttlefish, not the squid. So you probably have different mesh and different gear design for the cephalopods, particularly the cuttlefish. So you need to now research into what gear fits. Now, when you come to the semi-industrial, what normally we call lage, they also do trawling and they do personing. Personing is ringing the fish so that the net becomes round. And so when they are doing the trawling, they are not allowed to trawl within the IEZ, the 60-meter inshore exclusive zone.
Right.
They are supposed to trawl. Nobody trawls in the IEZ. Everybody who wants to trawl must trawl outside the IEZ. But they even trawl in the IEZ. They can only do personing in the IEZ. Now, when you come to the artisanal, they are different. We have what we call poly aliwacha.
What?
Poly aliwacha.
Poly aliwacha.
Yes, there are 3 different gear designs.
Right.
Now, the ali is basically a set net. So you have a net that is set, a long net. So the fishermen sleep overnight. And then when the fish is moving, particularly the sardinella, they get their heads into the net and they are trapped.
Right.
By morning, they drop. And then the poly normally has a smaller mesh size, and they target normally the anchovies. And then the wacha is just like the poly. It's also a person, but they have a bigger mesh size. They target a more bigger, small pelagic.
Right.
Now, between September and December, you have a lot of anchovies. The challenge is, how do you regulate the poly group? So between September and December, when there are a lot of anchovies, they could use some gear that is allowed. But by January, they should all take out the small mesh size. Because you see, you have a minor upwelling coming. So if you allow them to continue to use the small mesh size after December, they are also likely to start harvesting the juvenile that have been recruited into the system.
Right.
So at some point, you need to now decide that you cannot use this gear type. They also have the hook and line. Now, we are losing a lot of our fish habitats.
Yeah.
People are saying, well, the trawlers have destroyed them with their trawl doors and all that. What prevents us from having artificial reefs sunk in some places and protected, so that you have fish migrating to those reefs and then creating new habitats. Once they create new habitats and you protect them and then the habitat becomes saturated, they will move into the wild.
Yeah.
So you create a few more artificial reefs. The good thing about creating a protected zone area is that once the area becomes saturated, the fish would want to find new areas, new habitats, so they'll move into the wild.
Right.
So they'll be available for fishermen to harvest them. But whilst we do that, we also don't have to forget the fact that we are continually losing our inland water. And so our inland contribution to the fisheries we are basically losing it every day. Look at the Sakumo Lagoon.
Yeah.
Look at the Kweshi. They were all part of our fisheries system. Now, when you continue to lose your lagoons and all that, you are losing your fishery.
Right.
So you need to think about how to protect your inland water bodies. When you lose your mangroves, you are losing your crustaceans.
Yeah.
Because when we were young, we had crabs in the Chemu Lagoon and all that. The prawns and the shrimps spawn around the mangroves. And so when you cut off your mangrove and you remove them, you are losing your crustaceans.
Right.
So how do we ensure that we keep our mangroves and so that we can maintain some sanity within the crustaceans?
Yeah.
Because they are also key and important. They form major part of our fishery. In fact, we don't even have gears for sea crabs.
Yeah.
If you travel to other places, they have traps that they use for sea crabs and other crustaceans.
Yeah.
We don't even have at all. So, you see, we have not developed our industry the way we should, and even what we have not developed, we are we are just getting everything destroyed in no time.
Right.
Because poverty is so endemic in the industry.
Right.
So it's become a matter of survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And when you live in a society where there's survival of the fittest, then people will not play by the rules.
Right. They want to circumvent the system.
Yes, because they must survive.
Okay, let me take this message. This one says, "Good evening, I am Port. I am Dede watching you live from Nungwa. My dad is a fisherman, but I think as a country we are not doing much for fishermen." Is this something you agree with?
Yeah, definitely I do. And that's what I'm saying. That it's become a matter of survival of the fittest. We have allowed the system to get to a point where it's basically rotten, and you need to take hard measures to be able to go around the kind of situation we have in. Now, politicians are finding it difficult to take those measures. And if you are not able to take those measures, the industry will collapse. And when it collapses, it becomes a problem. And so we need a number of activities happening simultaneously to be able to get our fisheries back and to make it economically viable. For now, it's not economically viable.
All right. This one says recruitment one, recruitment overfishing, 2, growth overfishing. 1 explained. What about 2? Glued to my set and listening, learning plenty. Great program and super insight from Mr. Rickstani Amafio. So the fellow wants you to explain growth overfishing.
Well, basically, I try to explain that when the fish is grown to a point, but it's not spawned yet, and then you take them out of the fishery, you are basically engaged in growth overfishing, especially when you overfish them. Because, like I said, once the fish is recruited into the system, it will grow. And there are a number of natural factors that will take them out. Like predation will take some of them out. The environment itself may not be conducive for some of them, so some environmental factors, especially now that we have made our oceans the sink of waste. Because you realize that almost all our municipal waste are channeled into one water body or the other, which eventually leads into the ocean. Now, if, for instance, fish move around the estuaries and you pollute the estuaries, you are going to lose them.
Yeah.
Now, so you are likely, now when fishermen now begin to fish them before they spawn, you are engaged in growth overfishing because they've not grown to the level where they are okay for overfishing, for fishing. So basically, that is what growth overfishing is.
Right, is. All right, great. Hi, Iron Port. Did the fisher folk ask to be given time to rest? That's the question somebody's asking. All right. Did you people ask?
Well, naturally, when I was young, there were times when the fishermen would naturally rest, and that was around May, June, July.
Right.
Because during those times, they had farmlands, and around May, June, July, you are not likely to have around May, June, April, May, you are not likely to have a lot of fishing activity going on.
Yeah.
So most of them, and that is when the raining season has set in. So most of them would now go to their farms to farm, and a lot of them will now be fixing their gear, their canoes and other things, so that they will be preparing for the major upwelling, which start from July, August through to September. So they have a natural time of resting, except that because the scientific and technical working group now says that, look, the best time to set the close season is July, August.
Yeah. Now,
we are doing July, August. And you see, it is one of the major reasons you have a lot of light fishing happening. Because we have excess in terms of capacity. Now people have lost other livelihood activities like farming. We are doing all year round fishing. And so now they want to force the fish out of its habitat or its resting area with light. So April, May, June, when the fish are supposed to be resting, now they want to use light to bring them out because they are doing all year round fishing.
Yeah.
If there were alternatives, they may do that and then allow the fish to rest.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so I know there's one other policy that government is introducing to help the fisheries sector. I don't know whether you've heard about the fish landing sites, which are dotted across the Greater Accra, Western, and then Central regions. I think we have about 12 or 13 of them, and these are at various stages of completion. I happen to be a part of the team, a team from the Ministry of Transport that went round, to look at these things. And when they have other facilities attached to them, we have daycares, we have workshops for mending of nets and all that, where they also sell, we have markets, and all these things attached to
you cannot discount,
just to help the sector.
You cannot discount the importance of post-harvest activities because fish handling is important.
Absolutely.
When you bring them.
Yes.
So
because some of the facilities actually even have ovens where they smoke the fish at the landing site.
Yeah. So post-harvest activities are very important. You need to have very modern, especially if you want to target the export market. But you see, the challenge is that if you do these things for the artisanal community and you don't look at the craft and the fish preservation at sea, it becomes a problem.
Right.
Because fish will start going bad immediately they are dead. By 6 hours, they are gone.
Right.
And when you put the fish in the freezer, it doesn't improve the quality. It only maintains the quality. If anything, the quality would even be worse.
Yeah.
Now, so whilst you look at the shore-based activity, you need to also look at what happens at the fishing ground. Do we have to continue using the dugout canoe, especially with the kind of temperature we have? And then fishermen will bring the fish, put them on the floor sometimes before you put them in the cold store and all that. We probably may have to look at the entire value chain and see what is it that we could do so that by the time the fish is brought to the landing beach, it is as fresh as it was harvested and then it's preserved in that state.
Right.
You see, when the trawlers harvest and they sort out and they put them in their cold rooms, they maintain the quality.
Sure.
When the tuna vessels harvest and they put them in their, they brine them and put them in their cold room, they maintain the quality. But when the canoe people do it, because sometimes it gets small here, he needs to move to another place to get small. The quality varies.
Yeah.
So we need to now look also at what happens before we bring the fish in order that we can maintain quality.
All right, but you would agree that it's a very laudable initiative.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's important, but we don't just have to look at landing beaches. We also need to look at how to improve the craft and how to improve quality at the point of harvest. It's very, very important.
All right, so let's take a look at how we can improve the economies of fishing communities in these trying moments.
Well,
are there any suggestions you would like to
I think that we like I said, we need to diversify the use of the premise subsidy. You cannot just go into, especially now that politicians have taken over premise activities. And without any apology, the mess that happens in Tema with politicians who have absolutely nothing to do with fishing. Just ripping fishermen off daily because the premise comes and then they feel that, well, our government is in power, so we are in charge. And then they have to now fill their drums and then would later sell it sometimes thrice the cost to the fishermen.
The fisher folk.
I feel we probably need to make better use of the taxpayers' subsidy. And if we cannot maintain that sanity in the premise industry, we probably may have to find ways and means of supporting a system that would allow other people to do other activities rather than just concentrating on the fishing industry. That is not helping. Because I can assure you that a fisherman may come for a whole week and they may not get even more than 15 Ghana cedis.
15 Ghana cedis?
Yes. And we probably may have to, they come, they get some small fish, so they now have to do communal eating and may eat just once a day. Meanwhile,
but we are told these people make a lot of money.
You see, it's certainly not the case. If they made some money then in the past. And if that fisherman, probably, because when they land, they take out costs, and the costs include the premise costs. So if he has to buy premise for 5 cedis, and somebody decides to hoard the premise and sell it to him for 15 cedis, you are basically helping to impoverish that fisherman.
Is this a trend that is really happening?
It is.
In
It is
Tema,
happening. That's why I made specific reference to Tema. It's happening on daily basis. There are premise drums that are owned by people who claim, I'm the politician here and this is for me, and those people are served. We need to maintain the landing beach.
So you are a stakeholder, a player in this industry, and you are privy to some of these issues. Have you raised it up with the authorities?
No, the minister is very much. One time the minister had to come to Tema herself to make sure that everybody was served. And there was sanity that day when the minister was there. I was not there, but the fishermen themselves confessed.
Right.
That, look, there was sanity when the minister came. And if things are done that way, we wouldn't have problem. Because you see, the cost of super petrol is so
that means
high.
that the minister may have to position somebody there to be in charge of that.
You see,
on a daily basis for monitoring purposes.
You see, we need to stop serving we need to close all those dams that the politicians claim they own and allow the landing beach committees run them and be subjected to auditing. Because I don't see why some politicians should own dams for premise fuel that has been heavily subsidized by the taxpayer. It's not fair to the fisherman. It's not fair to me as a taxpayer. And I think we need to do something about it. I also believe that the intervention that is happening in terms of what is happening during the closure is okay, but we could do better.
Right.
Honestly, because we need to, and I hear the minister said she wants to do consultation for needs assessment. We need to do some needs assessment way ahead of the closure, so we plan and we know which people would seriously be affected by the closure. Because this morning somebody sent me a message that is in his village the people are struggling because of the closure. You get it? Because if you are not careful, a few people will hijack whatever the minister brings. So once we register all fishermen and we know and we have done proper assessment and we know which people will be more heavily affected, we will know how to
do the distribution,
do the intervention, such that you may not be able to solve all the problem, but you may be able to a large extent ameliorate the impact on the people who are going through these challenges.
Right. So finally, we would like to take your general overview, your general assessment of where we are at the moment, where we are headed, whether we are really going to have a bright future in terms of our fisheries sector. You've cataloged some of the issues that you think that we can consider to ensure that we address most of the challenges that confronts us as a country as far as the fisheries sector is concerned. Tell us what going into the future we should be doing.
My honest opinion, apart from the tuna sector, which in itself stand the danger of losing out, all others are already in the red. But why am I saying the tuna sector is in the danger of losing out? Well, the tuna vessels may be able to fish into international waters, areas beyond national jurisdiction. But the tuna feeds on the small pelagic. So if you lose your small pelagic, it means that you won't have the tuna coming. So we need to be able to preserve the small pelagic for the tuna sector to be sustained.
And how do we do that?
That's something that you need to put in place measures like gear regime. You have to make sure, because after closure, you have fishermen going back to use light. And once they start using light, you are losing the whatever effort you have put in. You need to have closed areas. You need to now think about cleaning your lagoons and other water bodies. You need to reduce the number of vessels within the industry, create alternative livelihood, sustainable for children of fishermen, probably create some pension scheme for older fishermen. You need to do a bouquet of activities
you mentioned
that would ensure that you are creating wealth among fishermen. So people are not just reliant on the sea that is getting dried. You need to now start thinking technology and probably how to go into mariculture and then be able to feed the people and reduce import of fish.
All right, with barely 3 minutes to go, tell us about IUU, illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing.
Well, IUU is a whole
absolutely
thing for
absolutely.
But basically, almost all the things we're talking about, use of wrong mesh size, anything that would not go by regulation or by law, is considered IUU. And I'm sure even before the term IUU was coined, our forefathers knew what they have to do. So they prevented a number of things that would destroy their resources. They had their own way of closing their season. For instance, when you look at inland areas, Sakumo, we have festivals such as Bakatui and all that, where they close the lagoon for a period of time, and then they come to open it. So we knew how to preserve our resources already.
All right.
It's just that poverty and other things are making people do things they are doing.
We have just 1 minute. This one says, hello, Iron Port. Kindly ask your guest what has been done about the several attacks on fishing vessels. This one's from Daniel, who's reaching out from
piracy. This year we've not recorded any pirate activity. Basically, what we are doing is that we are incurring additional costs, especially the tuna industry, because we now have to board uniformed naval officers to give extra protection on our vessels. And that is what we are doing. And we are grateful to the Ghana Navy because they've supported us in that regard.
Okay. All right. So that's how we draw the curtain on tonight's edition of Iron Report here on Metropolitan Television. I would like to say a big thanks to Rikstar Niama Amafio, who is the Secretary of the Ghana Tuna Association, who's been our guest tonight. We've been discussing the closed season and the future of Ghana's fisheries sector. I would like to say a big thanks to our sponsors as well, Ghana Revenue Authority, Goyle Company Limited, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, as well as Meridian Port Services, MPS. Remember, the show is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Maximum thanks to our executive producers, Madam Esther Jebidonko and Nana AC Soderbeck Mrs. My name is Kennedy Mona. Remember, the abridged version of the show is aired on Ghana Television every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of Iron Port here on this network, Metropolitan Television. Thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of the programs and have a super week ahead.